first of all, glad to see that people are all alive. I know that's not to be taken lightly. Hurricane Irma was she was a nasty beast of a storm and took out power in a lot of places. And some organizations were impacted more than others. I know they're down in Jacksonville. They're still not really able to do a lot of their normal work that they're accustomed to doing. They're not able to really have functions in their organization right now. Some offices are still without power. I know across even Georgia, there's still homes without power, and so that's never fun. But the good news is, for the most part, people were safe. I think here in Atlanta, we lost three people. 3 lives are blamed on the storm. 3 lives lost, which is not fun. However, if I were to look at it, I would say 2 of the 3 were self-imposed. One person who was not self-imposed, he was asleep in his home, and a tree came down, split his home in 2, and killed him while he slept. So that's a very unfortunate circumstance. In the other 2 cases, though, I would say probably more their fault than the storm's fault. One individual decided it was a good idea to just hang out in her vehicle, in her driveway of her home, and just sit in her car for a while. And while the storm was happening, probably didn't want to get wet with the rain and the wind. And so while she sat in her vehicle in her driveway, a tree fell, boom, took her out while she sat in her car. So I wouldn't blame Irma for that one. I would blame not wanting to get your hair wet or your feet or your shoes soaked. And then the other one is probably a great example of somebody blaming people that's really their own damn fault. This individual, I think it was in Wayne County or somewhere like that, was on his roof and was hanging out on his roof in the middle of the storm, and a wind gust came and picked him up and dropped him off, not on top of the roof anymore, but on the ground. So again, not advisable to be hanging out on your roof. Just in general, it's probably not a good idea, and certainly not a great idea during the only tropical storm warning in the history of Atlanta. So that being said, it was probably self-imposed more so than on the storm. So what I want to tell you as we start the initial prep is that we couldn't control what happened with the storm, but moving forward, we can prepare and handle what we do in our business in response to it. I'll give you a couple of examples of unfortunate circumstances that were turned positive in our business. And I'll use our business just because we can all relate. Many of you guys know we're just a couple of days off of the anniversary of 9/11, when the Twin Towers were destroyed. And what many people don't realize is that tragedy and the events that took place afterwards struck fear into an entire nation, across not only just the city of New York, but everywhere. And Manhattan was, of course, the organization, the city that felt the biggest brunt of that tragedy. The same week that 9/11 happened, and the week after, that office was the #1 office in the entire company. That was Joe Gianelli that he did that. There was a storm that went through Miami many years ago. I think it was a Category 3 hurricane where it flooded Kathy Vasquez's office, and her organization was the next week the #1 office in the nation. And then the best example that I can think of turning a tragedy into a unifying force and being able to respond positively by controlling things they can focus on is in New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina went through and caused, I think they said it was $350 or $250 billion in damage to the city of New Orleans. And the next year, New Orleans had its first $1 million year in the history of the company. And that manager, Dustin Marks, ended up going on to become a division manager and was one of the greatest division managers in the history of the company. And so my challenge for us all is really to take, anytime you're dealing with a tragedy, remember the positives that come from the experience of being able to overcome and survive those tragedies. A lot of times we find out more about ourselves in our darkest hours than we do in our best hours. You know, we find out more about ourselves when things aren't going the way that we feel like they should than when everything's easy. You know, and to strive to look for the good, even as you're dealing with the bad. That doesn't mean that you discount all the bad that's happening, but what it does mean is that you just handle the things that need to get done. For example, for some of you guys, you had school off the last several days. Did you use that time as a time to get caught up on your homework, or did you use it as a time to get hammered and just listen to the wind? Right? Did you use that time as a time to to journal? Did you use that time as a time to organize your attack list if you're working on work stuff here, or did you use it as a time just to nap, right? And here's the deal: it doesn't matter if you did use it to nap, but just remember that sometimes those unfortunate situations can actually be turned into a positive if you use it the right way. For those of you that needed to get caught up on sleep, hopefully you did get caught up on sleep. For those of you that maybe didn't have not been able to hang out with family much, hopefully you were able to use the last couple of days to actually see and spend time with loved ones, family, friends, and other things like that. So there are silver linings to everything bad, and and if you use it for the right purpose, you can actually turn things into a positive, even when it is a negative in the current time. So, what I want to talk to you guys about today, with Leadership Academy in particular, is the 5 C's of communication. And so, if you've got something to take notes on, I want to talk to you guys about effective communication. And this is something that can be utilized with personal relationships. This is something that can be utilized with familial relationships. This can be utilized when dealing with teachers, professors, friends, certainly in business with customers. This can be helpful. And so the 5 C's of communication. And because part of being a great leader is being able to effectively communicate. If you're going to be a great leader in our business, whether it be a branch manager, assistant manager, top representative giving messages at conferences, you can utilize these 5 C's of communication. So the first one is being clear, right? Being clear. I think sometimes we try to use, there's nothing less intelligent in my mind than when somebody tries to use big words when they don't understand the meaning of them. I'll give you one of my favorite examples of that. There is a basketball player, Charles Shackelford, way back in the day, and he was a right-handed basketball player, but he was scoring baskets with his left hand. Okay, which would mean what? Ambidextrous, right? And so they asked the basketball player, they asked Charles at the end of the game, they said, Charles, what's crazy out there? You had all these points that you scored with your left hand. What was going on tonight? What got into you? And he said, I don't know. I guess I'm just amphibious, right? And he was trying to use a big word, and he was not reptile-like. He was actually just using his opposite non-dominant hand. But in using that bigger word, he came across with coming across a lot less intelligent than he meant to. And so I think the way that we can apply that on demos is just making sure that whenever you're trying to try something new, whenever you're trying to come up with a new close or present a new set, make sure you're being clear. And that's why a lot of times it's easier to sell more focusing on smaller sets that you're already comfortable presenting, like the homemaker, the galley, the starter sets, than it is to try to just show the ultimate. We always talk about start bigger, you'll sell more. That is true, but only if you're clear. Okay, when you're working with your management candidates, or you're working with your key staff as a branch manager, and you're working with your top reps, making sure you're really clear on what you expect. Okay? For example, if you're going to have a team meeting theme, make sure it's clearly communicated. I think in weeks past, we did not do a great job here in the pilot of communicating our team meeting theme. It was kind of a last minute thing, so it wasn't really clear. And a lot of people would come in saying, hey, I don't know what's going on. Well, it was communicated a little bit better this week. Boom. Even the DVM's rocking a tie-dye shirt this week. So when things are clear, you tend to get more effective communication, coming across. Okay. So being clear is the first C of communication, making sure that it's understood by your target audience. Okay? One of the phrases that you'll hear me say, and it's probably a nervous tick now more than anything, but I'll say the phrase is, that makes sense. And I know you guys have all heard it a lot if you've ever been in any of my meetings or if you've been at heard any of my messages. But what I'm really trying to do is make sure that my message is getting through. So that nervous tick, or that my version of saying will be to say, does that make sense? What I'm really trying to do is just make sure that things are clear as it's coming across. So being clear is the first C of communication. The second C of communication is consistent. Is being consistent. Okay? And what I mean about being consistent is it's got to be repeated over and over and over again, almost to ad nauseum, in order for something to get through. And here's where it gets challenging sometimes as a leader, especially a newer leader, is you'll get frustrated because, like, damn it, I already told you this, right? But unfortunately, people need to be told things over and over and over and over and over again in order for it to get through. We're inundated, especially in today's society, with information. Think about, here's, they just announced the new iPhone 10, right? Any of you guys seen some of the announcements for that? Thing's ridiculous, right? They've got facial recognition. I was thinking about that. I was like, man, if my beard's real big and then it goes real small, are they going to know, or my hair's longer or short? Are they going to know if I'm fatter or skinnier? Are they going to still recognize me? That'd be kind of a cool test of iPhone's capabilities, is a weight loss challenge where the iPhone doesn't even recognize you anymore. But but it has facial recognition where it can pull those things up. Now they've got it where they also introduced a new an iWatch 3 that has LTE capabilities, which basically means you can make cell phone calls from your watch, even if you're not near your phone, which is pretty badass, right? But all this stuff's coming out, which basically means you're more attached to communication than you ever have been. And this is the most readily accessible we have to information. So what that means is that we're constantly getting new information, right? Back when I started in 2001, I remember cell phones were just becoming a thing. People had them before then, right? People had them back in the 90s and 80s, right? I remember my mom had the big Zach Morris phone. Some of you guys don't even know who Zach Morris is, but there's an old TV show called Saved by the Bell. And Zach, any of you guys know Saved by the Bell? All right, you should watch it. It's awesome. But but Zach had this phone that he was one of the only kids at the time that had this phone. And it was this big brick of a phone. It was about the size of, probably the size of a sheet of paper folded in half. So it's basically like this big, right? And that was the phone that you used to communicate. And so minutes, I think back then, I think if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but cell phone plans for $65 a month, you got 100 minutes a month worth of usage. So you could get 100 minutes of usage for $65 a month. So, so when you're in a relationship, you're screwed basically in the first week, right? You're done, right? That's it. You use your first week, you're done. I remember my mom I'd go to soccer practice, right? And she would call my dad and she would, turn on her phone. She would call him real quick. Hey, honey, I got to be quick because I don't want to use more than a minute, right? But, here's this, and this. Bye. All right, cool. Love you. Hang up, right? That was the extent of the cell phone communication. So, we had to use home phones to call each other. So there wasn't as much information. So now, more than ever, it's important that you're communicating things over and over and over and over again. Think about this. When you're on Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat, how often do you see how often do you see something before you eventually click it? Like maybe it's an advertisement for a particular shoe company, or maybe it's a brand of makeup or a brand of, clothing, or it could be an advertisement for another website that you could sign up for, like updates. Like, I know sometimes I'll scroll through and I'll see the same video from drunk people doing things on Instagram, and I'll be like, wait a minute, I've seen that video before, right? They'll advertise the same or post the same videos and get more people to look at it, right? So sometimes you have to communicate multiple times in order for something to happen. So being consistent, and the third C is constant, is going to be important. So being consistent, meaning that the tone is the same every single time. And one of the challenges that people have sometimes with the job, if they've been working for longer, is, oh, I'm saying the same thing over and over again. Well, that's critical to effective communication. Is you need to repeat the same thing over and over again. It should be such where that your people can repeat your phrases before you even finish them. Okay? So so whether it be your team slogan, right? Whether it be key phrases that you say on the demo that you teach. One of my key phrases that I try to teach people when I'm teaching people how to build value are the 3 questions to ask before you get into showing the video, right? And some of you guys have heard them. I know, CB, you've heard it at probably 4 or 5 alliance meetings, or at least 3 alliance meetings. But if you don't, some of you guys, I would say, hey, what are the 3 questions you ask before you go into the video? And if you know them, perfect. But some may still not know it, even though you've heard it over and over and over again. Right? So it needs to be consistent for effective communication. It also needs to be constant. Okay? And constant communication is important. I'll give you an example of consistent and constant, and then all of them tied together at the end. And it was used by Jim Harbaugh and his family. It was actually his dad that taught him this when they were growing up. But things need to be repeated over and over and over and over again. Okay, and that's the case of any change that you're trying to make. If you're trying to make a positive change in your life, it needs to be consistent and it needs to be constant. And so, it's not just eating the right thing once, eating it consistently and also constantly, right? Meaning over and over and over again, and repeating it over and over and over again. In our business, for phone calls, they need to not only be consistent, but constant, because if you get it, you'll eventually have that kind of breakthrough. The 4th C is concise. You may have heard the phrase, less is more. Anybody heard that phrase before? Less is more, right? Less is more. And that's important with anything. That's important with relationships, especially as you're newly dating somebody. Sometimes less is more. 1 text should suffice, not 15. You're trying to reach out to somebody, right? Ladies, you probably would all agree that if you get 1 text from somebody, that's kind of endearing. You get 10 texts from somebody, that's a little creeper-esque, right? It's like, hey, what are you up to? Hey, what are you up to? I just, there was a famous actress who put an NFL player on blast because he was doing that recently, and blew up, and it blew up that poor guy's, he's an NFL player's Twitter and Instagram by basically just screenshotting some of his consistent and constant communication to reach out to her. And she was like, whoa, stalker much? And it was like a screenshot of like 5 messages in a row, spaced periodically every 2 to 3 days, saying, hey, how are you? Hey, what's up? Hey, what's going on? With no response, right? So it does need to be concise. You don't want to have, I think anytime I get a text message where it's like 3 or 4 texts broken up in a row, it drives me nuts. So having things be concise are important. So having phrases in your demo that are concise, having benchmarks that you promote for your team, and hey, here's the expectations, having that in is important. And then the last C of effective communication is in context. Okay, so having things be in context. So when you're given a message, you want things to be relatable to what you're communicating about, right? So it needs to be about the topic that you're talking about. Okay? So it needs to be in context. Okay? And it needs to be done so that people can understand it without having to try to explain it. Okay? So it needs to be in context when you're communicating. So, I'll give you an example of one that communicates all of it at the end. So Jim Harbaugh's father, who the Harbaugh family is a pretty prominent family in the sports world. Jim is the head football coach now of University of Michigan. He was the head football coach for the 49ers in the NFL for a while. His brother John is the head football coach for the Ravens and led them to a Super Bowl. And their sister was a very accomplished athlete in her own right. And her husband was the head basketball coach, I believe, of Indiana for a long time. So they're pretty big in the sports world, sports community. And the dad himself was a head football coach. And they used to have a phrase that they would say every day they got out of the car. When he dropped them off for school, he used to say this phrase. And all the dad would do is he would lean over the seat. And it used to drive them nuts when they were little. But he would just remind them. And he would say, hey, fellas, before you leave, who's got it better than we do? And then all three of the little kids would yell out, nobody, right? And so imagine these little kids being brought up, right? And this is their mantra that they're saying right as they leave the car to go off to school, right? And they would do it before everything. They would do it before games would start. They would do it before they would go to school. They would do it before any plays or anything else that they were a part of. They would do it before they'd go spend the night at friends' houses, right? It was always kind of their send-off whenever they were around each other. They'd say, hey, who's got it better than we do? And they would all yell back, nobody, right? And so when the 49ers made a run at the Super Bowl several years ago, that was their mantra that they would start every game with. And it was simple, it was clear, it was concise, it was constant, right? It was in context because it was designed to elicit a feeling of positivity and confidence right as you walk into a big event. And it was it was also one that really kind of got people eliciting and feeling great emotions. And so as you're writing messages and you're giving talks, if you're communicating it in school projects, just remember those five C's, of communication, and it will help you to prepare a better presentation. It will help you to get a better grade, and certainly to have a more effective message whenever you're communicating here in our work. So the 5 C's of communication is a big deal towards effectiveness and success. So on the topic of that, we're going to dig in a little bit to the post-interview, and then I want to talk about the SLC push and what's coming up for that. So there is a new updated version of the post-interview that includes the all-important assignment at the end of the interview, and it's been emailed out to your district managers. They have it. We have it here in our office, and Mullins, let's get this printed out for everybody and just passed out. It's pretty much the exact same post-interview that you guys have already been handed. It just now has the important assignment of having people bring in names and numbers to the training seminar. And this is one of the most important things to helping people to have an effective start to their career, is bringing in names and numbers. And as a reminder, we're going to be drilling for skill this very topic on the 23rd. So September 23rd, we're going to be doing this. You're going to be doing this for a group of your peers, and you're going to be getting evaluated and graded on this. So we want to make sure that we're spending some time kind of rehearsing it and going over it, but we're going to make copies of it here. And so the beginning part is all the exact same. So if you have your regular post-interview that was already passed out at last prep, go ahead and pull that out. If you do not have it, make sure that you never have come to TLA without your binder with any and all handouts that have been given to you. That's going to be important. And so as this is coming out, what I want to do is first review the order of which you'll want to make sure you're meeting with people in. Okay? And so when you're running your first interview, you always want to make sure you're meeting with people in the proper order. So who knows who the best people to meet with first would be? And at the end of the interview, who do you want to meet with first?
Well, if someone finishes before like everyone else, make sure to take them back so that everyone else doesn't just stop like filling out their sheets and stuff like that since one person is.
Okay. Anybody else got an opinion on this? Sharpest, okay.
It's kind of like everybody's situational kind of thing.
That's all right. All right. So here's the correct answer. The correct answer is and guys, most of you were correct-ish, right? You know, you're bouncing around the issue. The correct answer is if you do have anybody who's neg, they come out first. Okay. If everybody's positive, okay, then you don't yank them back first, right? But if anybody is negative, and what I mean by that is at the end of the interview, there's going to be a sheet they fill out that says, if accepted, could you see yourself working with Vector, right? You know, could you see yourself, you know, enjoying the opportunity or something along those lines, right? If they click no, so as you're walking around, if they click no, that's who you want to meet with first. Okay? Because the last thing you want to do is to pull back a sharp person and have a negative person sitting back poisoning the rest of the group. Okay? Have any of you guys heard of the phrase SNIOP before? Okay, SNIOP is a big phrase that we'll use a lot in our management training program, but SNIOP stands for subject to negative influence of other people. Okay? You've heard us talk about circles of influence and those being so important, right? Well, you know, you're going to be influenced by the people that hang out with the most. And when somebody is not a positive person and they're hanging out with them, kind of bringing people down, we call that SNIOP, right? Which is subject to negative influence of other people. So SNIOP is a real thing, right? So you bring back, and I've had this happen before, where I brought back an applicant, and in bringing them back, the very next person I go to meet with, I walk in and there's like 3 or 4 people missing. I'm like, what the world just happened, right? I know I ran a good interview, and all of a sudden there's like a group of people gone. Usually what it is it's one person that is not very positive and starts spouting out a bunch of negativity and, you know, negatively influence a group of other people to leave, right? You'll see this in training classes. You could see this in team meetings sometimes, where there's that one neg person that could influence a bunch of other people in a less than positive way. So if you have anybody that definitely clicked no, that's who you want to meet with first. And I'll be honest, guys, don't waste much time with them. You pull them out of the room. Hey, and I usually pull them out so that nobody can hear me in the room. If it's a smaller office, I just pull them in my office real quick, and I usually don't even sit down. I say, hey, I'm sorry to hear you said if accepted this, this wouldn't be a good fit for you. Why is that? Just out of curiosity, why is that, right? And I've had it happen where they're like, oh, no, I didn't know if you were going to give me the job. So I clicked no because I wasn't sure if you're going to give me the job. I thought you meant, do you think you'll get the job? And I'm like, no, let's go ahead and meet, right? And at that point, you got to meet with them and get it out of the way. So sometimes it's not that they're trying to be, nasty. Sometimes they just don't understand what the question means. And that's not really a positive thing either, but whatever. So you get that person out of the way. But a lot of times you'll have people that'll say something effective. Yeah, I just don't feel like, this would be a good fit for me. Blah, 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 right? And if they're not super sharp, don't try to save everybody. You're not going to be able to have everybody feel like the job is a good fit for them. In fact, if everybody says the job is a great fit for them, you probably haven't communicated everything clearly. Okay? So, but if that person clicks no and they're not razor sharp, just say, hey, no big deal. I appreciate you coming in. Thanks for your time. Have a great day, right? Boom. You let them go on their way. The only thing I'll say with that is do make sure you give them the Skills for Life sheet, just so that way they have all the information and they can't claim that they were told something different, right? They can't claim that they were told, that they'd be paid $15 an hour, right? They can't claim that they were told that, they would, they'd be sitting in an office instead of meeting directly with customers. There's all sorts of things that, people can claim, but if they have that sheet of paper that literally explains everything, they can't claim that they weren't given the proper information, even if they don't get the job. Okay. That's why everybody needs that Skills for Life handout. Then after you meet with, anybody who's super neg, meet with the sharpest person. Okay. I know there's different schools of thought. If you've got somebody who's super arrogant, you can then meet with the second sharpest person. But in general, if you're doing a great job of establishing control on the script, you're not going to have somebody super arrogant, towards you in the interview. It's so few and far between. So that's why I just say meet with the sharpest person and go sharp down. Reason being is that if the sharp person does have questions, if there's anybody you want to spend more time with, it's going to be that person. Okay. So, so sharp down. And so if you pull out the post-interview document, here's what you're saying as you're sitting down. It says, so Sophie, what was your overall impression of our company? And then they'll communicate, oh, it was really good, blah, 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 right? If you've done your job well, they'll build that up. What you do not want to have people saying to you is, I think you gave a great presentation. Okay? If you hear, oh, you did a great job presenting, then it wasn't an interview in their mind, it was a presentation. Okay? And so just know, if you're hearing that a lot, it means that they didn't feel like they were being interviewed. They felt like they were just being sold. Okay. So what was your overall impression of our company? Okay, great. And did I answer all of your questions? Was it all pretty clear? All right. And you want to use the old vector nod there, right? You guys all know the vector nod? Yep. See it? Yep. You got it. Vector nod. Nicole, I'm looking at you. You got a vector nod. There it is. Boom. C-dub, right? Where's that vector nod with those big old headphones? Yep. Boom. There it is. Okay. So you want to use that vector nod. Then after using the old vector nod, it's there is a phrase on here where it says, okay, did you have any additional questions? I don't ask that unless it's somebody razor sharp. The reason why I say that phrase in particular is just because I do want to make sure if somebody's intimidated, they can get through and ask me any other questions that they may have. But personally, I don't ask that one. If they're clear on all I know if I did a good job on the interview, then they're not going to have any questions, and there shouldn't be any questions. Okay? As a new recruiter, as you're getting through stuff, you may end up getting some questions here and there. And if that's the case, just make sure that you write down any questions you're hearing consistently, because that usually means you can meet with your manager and figure out how to address it in the group so that you don't get it at the end. And then I'm also seeing here you checked if accepted, that Vector could benefit your future. In what ways? All right. And what I typically do there, as soon as I say that, I kind of sit back and I just, kind of dead ball, right? I don't even, if I was interviewing Caroline, I would just look straight through her. Okay? So as she's answering questions, I'm looking at the window. I'm not really looking at her, kind of looking straight through her. So that way I'm giving her full focused attention. And so then that way she's kind of put on the spot a little bit. Okay? It's a little intimidating, not being rude or mean or aggressive, but just it's focused, right? And that tends to, make people feel a little uncomfortable, but also on their toes, right? And they're gonna perform their best. Okay, so just make sure as you're asking their questions, you're really giving them great eye contact, so that you're expecting them to give you a great answer. Okay, this is where they're selling themselves on how the position is going to benefit them. Okay, so you said accepted that Vector could benefit your future. In what ways that? Okay, and just kind of wait. The power pause is important there. And if you feel if accepted this is something that you could excel at, what how so? Okay, perfect. And so Caroline, as you saw, there are a lot of people applying with us today. So why do you feel like you should be selected? And I do typically move that one phrase up. I put in the phrase right there before that says, the toughest part of my job is I'm not able to work with everyone. And as you can see, there's a lot of people applying with us. So why do you feel like you should be selected? And that's really kind of the toughest question, but that's where they're trying to sell you as a recruiter on why they should get the job. Because the truth is that we cannot work with everybody. We're not in the business of playing God, meaning that we're not going to not give people a shot, but at the same time, we can't work with everyone. So we want to make sure that they actually feel like they have earned the position. Okay. And they need to earn the position, not just being handed a job. Okay. So this is where they're kind of earning the position, is how they're answering their questions. So it says, well, Kate, like I said before, I do make most of my decisions in the second interview. I really ask these questions to solidify my final decision. The toughest part of my job is that I can't accept everyone that applies with us. So I do want to thank you for applying. And that little slight pause right there is kind of the oh shit moment for the applicant. It's like, dang it, right? This sucks. I'm about to get the boot, right? Or about to be rejected, right? It says, in your case though, Kate, I do feel like you presented yourself well. And then what you want to do is pull out their application and try to provide one or two things from their past and one thing that you notice from them in the interview as to why you would genuinely be excited about working with them. And guys, this is the part where you can't bullshit this. Like, you can't fake this if you want to be a great recruiter. Sometimes people think, oh, is it just a script that you follow? Yes, but this needs to be real. There is a format, just like when you're working with, a personal coach for business success. There's a formula you follow. Just like if you go to a therapist, there's a formula that they need to follow, but that also needs to be sincere in order for it to be effective, right? And so this sincerity comes through right here. Hey, you seem like you're a really hard worker. And in fact, Kate, I noticed that you're actually dual enrolled. Is that correct? So you're taking school. So you're actually a high school student. You're taking college classes, right? And then not now. I know that now, jerk. But I know when you started, you were, right? So, but that's the whole point, right? Is you got to be sincere about what they do, and that will make them effective here. And so I typically draw on either GPA, extracurriculars, sports, things that they've done that are difficult and not easy to achieve, but takes consistent effort. For example, I think Sam, you were an Eagle Scout. You didn't actually finish it, but so if somebody isn't, what's that?
That was Micah.
That was Micah, right? So Micah was an Eagle Scout. So if somebody's an Eagle Scout, I like to bring that up. If somebody is ahead of a group in their school, I bring that up. Whether it be captain of a sports team, captain of their cheerleading team, president of a certain club, right? Have exhibited some sort of leadership or things that are difficult and challenging to take kind of a consistent effort in order to be effective at. So I'll bring that up. If then I'll point to something that I saw with them in the interview. Maybe they were taking a lot of notes. That's a great one to bring out. Perhaps it's that they were really with you in the interview. I could tell that you were really nodding and paying attention to the interview, which means that not only were you listening to me, or not only were you hearing me, but you were listening and really paying attention. So I could tell that if I could appreciate these things, then I know our customers and staff would appreciate these qualities as well. So you're going back to things that you see in the interview and their person, so that way they actually feel good about getting the position, and it is sincere there. So I'd like to go ahead and welcome you to the team. Congrats. And you offer your hand. When you offer your hand to shake their hand, do not reach all across the table like a goober, right? Because if you do that, it feels kind of weird. You've been serious and kind of professional this whole time, and now you're all of a sudden like, hey, come here, bring it in. Like, that seems really weird, So it's, hey, congrats, and you kind of offer your hand. And when you offer your hand, let them come to you, right? Whoever has to come forward more has less control, right? So you kind of offer your hand out, let them come in to shake it. Now, know how deep your table is, right? For example, if you got little T-Rex arms and you put your hand like let's say your table is like this table, right? And I've got this real big table here in front of me. If I were to hand my hand right here, they would literally have to like climb on the table to shake my hand. So in that case, if you got a little shorter, if you've got if you've got really short arms and a really big table, it's not a bad idea to actually stand up and offer your hand. So that way they're not having to reach all across, and they can kind of stand up, shake their hand, and say, okay, real quick, we do need to go over a few things. Then you can sit back down, right? But just know that you want to, be in control there and not buddy when you're giving them the job. Okay. So after you shake their hands, so what we need to do, Caroline, is go ahead and get you set for training. Training is actually going to be on, and then you write the times, Thursday and Friday at this time. Do those work out all right? And you kind of use the vector knot again. All right. Also, you're going to be training with, and when I say if I'm the one training, so for example, if you're a branch, I'll actually be the one training you. So you'll have a familiar face when you get here, right? Or I'll personally be the one training you. And if you've had some level of success, you can build yourself up a little bit. Personally, I feel like that's a little much, right? If somebody comes, like I never promote, myself at the end of an interview, just because I kind of already mentioned some of that stuff as I'm interviewing people in general about how long I've been managing people. But if you're interviewing for somebody else, meaning somebody else is running the training, they really do need to be built up. And all of you guys, no matter what your career sales, are impressive to somebody who's never done the job before. Does that make sense? Like you may be like, oh, I'm not that high in career sales. It doesn't really matter what's high. They don't know what's good or not good, right? The fact that you've actually sold knives in somebody's home and survived, like you didn't die, is impressive enough for them to actually be, okay, I can listen to you, right? You've survived selling knives in somebody's home and it actually worked, right? So build up whoever's training right there. And what I'm gonna do is go ahead and give you tips to get the most out of training. First and foremost, make sure to be here on time. Vet your time is 15 minutes early. So training starts at 3 o'clock on Thursday. So let's go ahead and make sure that you're here about what time you think? Yeah, 2:45. Bring a pen and notebook with you. Throughout your vector career, there'll be tons to take notes on. You want to stay organized. Also, appropriate attire will be business casual. And if somebody is not dressed up, okay, in the interview, make sure to address it there. Like, hey, do you have a nice, do you have, a more professional outfit you think you could throw on for training? Right? And, and just ask. If not, no big deal, right? Just say be a professional version of you. If they're already wearing professional attire, say, so what you got on, is perfect. Also go ahead and bring a snack or lunch, because I'm going to talk a lot about cutting up food with your customers in training, and you're going to get hungry. So you might want to bring something to eat. And now, Caitlin, one thing you will want to go ahead and start working on before training is a brainstorming list, potential people you feel comfortable practicing with. I'm sure you probably have already started thinking of some people you could practice with, correct? Right, you use the veteran. So yes, our only requirements for practice women is that they're over 30 and they work full time. So somebody that would obviously closely resemble our target market. Anybody that you'd feel comfortable practicing with. So it could be family or friends. Anybody you feel like would give you good feedback and great practice. Now, at a minimum, we want people to have at least 10. Most people get to fill up the whole page, 30 or more. And this one updated. Make sure I've got the right one. I'm feeling like it may not be. To review, edit. Is this updated here? Let me make sure. Yep, here we go. Okay, so now at a minimum, we want you to get at least 10. Most people try to fill out the sheet, while top performers aim for 50 or more. What do you feel confident that you can get to? Okay, and then they'll come up with that number. Okay. All right, and like I said, this assignment is for you. So the harder you work on it, the more money you'll make. Now, don't worry about scheduling appointments yet, because I am going to teach you how to do that in training. So all I want you to do is to gather your contacts together. That way, when I teach you how to schedule your appointments, you have everything organized and you're good to go. Do you have any questions as far as the assignment goes? Okay. And if you need any help, you have my number. Now, Brittany, one last thing. I did see that you recommended a few people that you thought could do pretty well with us. I want to make sure it was okay for us to give them a call. While I can't promise anybody the position, if they're anything like you, I'd like to give them a chance at an interview. So who would you recommend that I reach out to first? Okay, cool. Hunter, great. Well, it was great meeting you today. Bradley, look forward to having you training. Have a great day. Okay, or have a nice day. Yep, it's already been sent out to I think most people, but I'll print this out again here in the pilot. So that is the approach that we're going to be using at the end of our interviews moving forward. Any questions on that? And divisionally, any questions on it? I will say that's the most, that little assignment part is probably the most important part to getting a great initial success for our trainees. You know, when people come to training with 4 or 5 numbers, they tend to struggle a little bit getting their practice performance booked up, which means that they're less confident as they leave training, which, you know, the last thing we want is people to be less confident. Okay? If somebody comes in with 20 or 30 names and numbers of training, or 30 or 50, they're going to rip it, and they'll be really confident going forward. Okay? So any questions on that? Bradley, any questions? No? Lindsay, any questions?
No.
Nope, you got it. Cool. All right. Well, the last thing I want to wrap up with tonight, guys, and really kind of kick off our team meeting, and Sam Mullins, if anybody shows up, they can just come on in for this. That's fine. Is the SLC push. And guys, the SLC push is one of only 2 times in the entire summer that we ask everybody, or entire fall, that we ask everybody to step up. And for some of you guys, you know, it's coming at the perfect time. And the reason why I say for some of you is because some of you have been doing your thing, you've been selling, you've been doing normal demos, you're happy with where you've been, with what your results have been these first several weeks of the fall. However, for some of you, you've been waiting to get settled into classes. Perhaps you've kind of hit a rut. Perhaps you haven't been having as much communication as you normally do with the officer, with your manager. And so if that's the case, this really does come at the perfect time, because it allows you to be perfectly off balance for a short period of time in a way where you can step up, that competitive juice is flowing, and it kind of allows you to hit reset. And I had our staff meeting on Tuesday with all of our district managers, and we talked about the storm. While it was unfortunate that it had to come through our division, was probably an ideal thing for a lot of our district managers, because it forced us to hit reset. It forced us to say, okay, we're not where we need to be so far to have the success that we want to have for the fall campaign. So you know what? Boom, let's hit reset. This is a fresh start. It's an opportunity to kind of just bring it back into a higher level of success. And so let's first and foremost talk about what is the SLC push. So the SLC push is a 2-week competition that leads up to our big national manager event that we have. It's the only national competition that we have as an organization. I will say that as a division manager, for me, this is the one that matters. I'm not a huge trophy person, but the trophies that I give a shit the most about, the ones that I care the most about, are the SLC trophies. You know, those are the ones. If you ever walk into our pre-post room, they're the ones that are kind of prominently displayed in the bookcases. They're the ones that are on the desk. They're the ones that I've got. So the SLC push, it's the only national competition. So as a division manager and as district managers, we compete against the entire peer group as a company. And that SLC event happens in October 4th through the 6th. And so right before Jamaica and right after the 2-week sales competition ends, the company actually flies all the district managers in. This year it's in Washington, D.C., so it's right in the shadow of the White House is where we're having our meeting. And so we're all coming together for a big competition. And I will say this one really does matter to me as a division manager. This is one of the things that I look to. Do you step up during this when I come to making the territory decisions? Because one of the things that I look for A players, one of the things that I look for top performing management candidates is, are they able to step up at the key times, right? So SC2, for example, during the summer is a great time to step up. You know, this is one of those times during the fall that we ask you to step up. And even if you're not on a consistent basis able to do much, we do ask that everybody contributes something. And so there are that you can win. So one of the by show of hands, anybody's got a copy of this? And for those of you on Zoom, who else got a copy of the prizes? Some of you do, some of you do not. Okay, well, let me at least review them so you know what's out there. Because the push starts next Tuesday. So we're going to do a mandatory TLA conference call on Monday. I just thought that would be a little bit in poor taste considering that the storm was kind of coming through about that time. So I did not have everybody hop on a conference call right in the middle of the winds. Some of you guys may have had to go on your roof for reception, and then we would have lost you. So that would have been not good. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe they had a conference call for work, and that's why the guy was on his roof. But but that being said, I can't believe that dude did that. But anyway, so 1,500. So 1,500. All you got to do is sell 1,500, and you win a traditional cheese knife. Now, I know many of you guys already have the traditional cheese knife. They are the easiest knife in the world to sell. So if you already have one, it's worth having an extra one. You sell that bad boy for cash. It is so easy to sell. You pull out, especially to Cutco owners, you have them pull out their trimmer, have them cut a potato with it, hand them your cheese knife, have them cut a potato with that, sells itself instantly, right? So 1,500, you win that. 3,000, which for some of you guys is just a handful of orders, probably 6 orders over the course of 2 full weeks. But it's at 3,000, you win the Pearl Big Daddy Honey Knife. Right? So 3,000, you win the Pearl Big Daddy Honey Knife. So and the cheese knife, by the way. So you win the cheese knife and the Pearl Big Daddy Honey Knife, which is pretty sweet. Now you think about this for a second. So if you sell 3,000, from an income standpoint, you're making anywhere between $400 all the way up to $1,500. And on top of that, you'll also win the equivalent of about $250, $270 worth of free Cutco. So if you think about it, if you sell that stuff for cash, maybe you already have both of these. Does anybody on the call already have a cheese knife and a Pearl Honey Knife? Okay, so we got just like one person. Okay, sweet. That's good. So all of you guys, you'll have this to be able to sell more of them. But even if you do have both, you could sell both of them for cash, which basically what that means is that you're setting yourself up for a 10% pay increase, right? So 3,000, you're winning just shy of $300 with a free Cutco. Sell it for cash. You're almost giving yourself a 10% pay increase. So if you're at 20%, you're really making 30%. If you're at 30%, you're making 40, and you get the idea, right? 5,000. This is where it gets friggin' ridiculous. At 5,000, you win the Pearl Honey Knife, the traditional cheese knife, and the Red Kitchen Companion set, which is badass. So that is something, guys, that even if you just kept the red table knives and the red super shears, which I think the red super shears look killer. They're one of my favorite looking pieces of Cutco that we make, the red shears. But even if you kept the red shears and the red table knives and just sold all the other red pieces for cash, you'd have a pretty cool looking set. For those of you that are Falcons fans, Atlanta United's fans, UGA fans, you can swap out some of the pieces and have your own signature UGA style set, which is pretty sweet. So you get the Red Kitchen Companion set at 5,000. The value of that thing's like $900. So guys, in that case, you sell 5,000. Income, you're making anywhere between about $700 all the way up to 2,500, and you've got an extra like $1,200 worth of free Cutco to have there for doing that. 7,500. So this is crazy too. At 7,500, instead of winning the Kitchen Companions, you'll actually win the entire flatware chest, which is a value of almost $1,400. So again, guys, you're getting the math. I mean, some of this stuff is like 20% of the value of what you're winning. I mean, you sell 7,500, you're winning $1,300 worth of free Cutco. You're making anywhere between, I guess, about $1,300 and $3,750 in income. And at 10 grand, you win the flatware chest, you win the Red Kitchen Companions, you win the Pearl Honey Knife, and you win the traditional cheese knife. So the prizes are pretty ridiculous. So that in and of itself, I think, is worthy of kind of stepping up for the next couple weeks. But there's also some other intrinsic things that you can get from stepping up. And what I mean by that, one is just, personal pride, meaning that For some of you guys, just getting back on the horse and showing the rest of the team, hey, this is this is me. This is who I really am in the Cutco sales world, right? It's just stepping up. And for some people, it's just the fact of, hey, it's a competition. I'm competitive. I'm going to bring it, right? For some of you, it's getting to dirty 30 or maybe getting closer to dirty 30 and making 30% of what you sell. For some of you guys, it may be hitting another pay raise. That is a motivator for you, or a driver for you. Some of you guys that may be creating that fall momentum. I know some of you have been kind of taking an approach of, well, we'll wait and see, right? We'll wait and see what my class schedule is going to look like before I really start doing a lot of demos. Well, now is that time, right? And create that fall momentum. For some of you, it's helping to make your claim for a branch territory. We're gonna go over the branch pay program September 23rd, and you're gonna see what it looks like. But I will say that it looks like the average branch manager last year made killer money, but more importantly, they saved a hell of a lot more. So not only was their business profit better, but their savings was a lot greater. The average branch made anywhere between $3,500 and $5,000 more per level of CPO that they sold versus a year ago. Meaning if somebody did 100 grand, they may have made a certain amount last year, we'll add an extra 3,500 to 5,000 to that, right? And so income is great, but also being able to make a claim so that you can be picky and choosy with your branch territory. That happens, by working hard and stepping up during this. Perhaps you want to earn a TLA spot. Maybe you want to earn an invite to getting into our Leadership Academy program. Perhaps you've got drivers that you're not in TLA right now, but you want to get into TLA, and so that could be it. Maybe it's just getting more on my radar, and maybe becoming part of our A player group. This is a great way to get an invite into our A player group, is by stepping up for that. Maybe you want to be nationally ranked. Whatever the push means, and it could be different things for different people. I think it's important to write down what matters to you. So if you've got this sheet, and this sheet was sent out to your district managers, and your districts can forward it to you. But there's actually a question on there. It says, what does the SLC push mean for you? What's up for grabs? And if you go to this sheet, go ahead and circle your top 3 to 5 things that this SLC push could do for you. Okay? Things that you'd be excited about hitting. And so some of the prizes of what's up for grabs, you got income level at the 1 to 5K level, or 1.5K. You've got, for every level of sales quota, there's an income level that you may be excited about. There may be a prize level, Cutco prize level, that you're motivated by, that you don't have. It may be some of the stuff on the right, which is kind of less, prize related and more kind of internally driven. And then in a couple of sentences, what I want you to do is write down what can the SLC push mean for you? Perhaps it's separating yourself from the rest of the TLA class. Perhaps it's, getting into, really showing that you're an A player. Perhaps it's, I'm broke. I need money. That's all right. I mean, if you worked hard over the summer and you took a month off, things probably will be a little tighter. If the last time you really consciously did demos was right before SC3 and you didn't do anything for several weeks, things might be a little tighter. That's expected, right? So this is getting back on the horse for that. Perhaps it's supporting your family. Perhaps it's, paying out student loans. Perhaps it's, to earn a bigger spot in our organization. But whatever it is, go ahead and jot that down. Okay? And so part of any time you want to step up, anytime you want to make a goal, or anytime you want to have or a higher achievement, taking where you are now to being a better version of where you are in any field, is you need some sort of accountability and ideally circle of influence designed to help you. You know, whether it's, you know, finding a workout partner, finding somebody that you're meal prep buddies with, right? You're taking pictures of the food you're cooking and sending it out, whether it be, you know, having a study buddy where you actually do go and study together, right? Your circle of influence does mean a big thing. And so one of the things that we do anytime we have a push or a competition is we have an alliance, which is a core group of people designed, bless you, to help you take your business to another level. And the way that we do alliances is, keep in mind, this push is not like a summer. Okay, so I don't want you, for those of you that were, who was around during SC2 or SC1 during the summer, okay, you know how crazy that is. That means every morning at the office, long drives, craziness, right? You're hating your manager. You're hating me probably. You're tired of me. Yep, Caton, hating me. Yep, I hear you. You back at you. No, I'm kidding. No, I didn't hate you. I did hate how long those eggs sat in our fridge, but that was not, you know, but beyond that, right? But buying breakfast, right, if you're late, right? This isn't like that, right? I mean, could there be in certain offices? Maybe, right? But as a division, that is not what we do during the non-summer. Not, at least not during school, you know? And so because of that, we have a different type of alliance. And what that is designed to do is provide daily accountability and motivation, and having a core group that we get together. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be having meaningful phone jams throughout the push. And for some of you, all that means is that when you come in for the stuff that you're already coming in for anyway, you're being intentional about it, right? And that makes a big difference. Being intentional versus just kind of showing up is different, right? I'll give you an example. Any of you guys ever been to the gym and you see the people that aren't really working out? You know what I'm talking about? Like, you see them and they're there like for months, right? And they look the same. Like, I mean, they're there all the time, but they're not really changing either their body structure, or they're not changing the intensity levels of their workouts. Like my favorite ones are the ones where you see them and they're like talking on the phone while they're walking on a treadmill type, right? It's like they are there. They're at the gym. Technically, they are working out, but they're not really intentional about their workouts. And then you see like the weirdos, right? Which, you know, I'm, you know, when I'm in my best, I am one of those weirdos, right? The ones that are kind of doing the crazy shit that, like, you're looking over at them, you're like, what in the world? They're going to hurt themselves, right? Like, the level of intensity, they're gross because they're like dripping sweat, you know, and like, you know, they're having to go back and wipe down. If they're nice, they're wiping down everything. If they're jerks, they're not wiping down things when they're done using them, right? Those people are intentional about their workouts, right? And so being intentional sometimes about the phone jam can make a big difference. And so if somebody is committed to trying to do 5K for SLC push, and there is one other prize that is not listed on here that I think is probably worth mentioning. For a lot of you, this is going to help you hit the VIP night. And some of you guys know about VIP night. Some of you guys don't if you're on the call. But as a reminder, the way VIP night works is you sell 10 grand from basically, you know, beginning of September all the way till October 20 or 16th, right? And you're winning a VIP night down in Atlanta, hotel rooms at W Buckhead, restaurant, Gypsy Kitchen, going out, living it up, VIP status, right? Every PR you get counts $1,000 credit. So for some of you guys, if you got a buddy or two in for the job, you went out and you sold 3 to 5 grand for this, you're hitting VIP night. Well, I talked to the district managers and they've agreed that they want to juice it up for this push. So here's what we're going to do. Anybody that sells 3 grand will at least be able to come to the dinner portion of VIP night. So maybe you don't get to stay at the W Buckhead, at least not paid for by me and by your districts, but you at least get to come out and hang out, which is pretty sweet. You know, we'll go out. Gypsy Kitchen is a beautiful restaurant with amazing food, cool atmosphere, and obviously you'll be surrounding yourself with the creme de la creme of the division. So that's going to happen October 21st. So that's at 3K, but at 5K, here's what we're basically looking for. And so, you know, you could circle one of the places that you want to be at the bottom of this, but let me just show you kind of what we're looking at for our 5K Alliance. So the way 5K Alliance works is it's Saturday phone jams. from 9 to 12, basically. So you're just jamming on Saturday mornings and Wednesday nights. So no different than normal there, right? And then 2 out of 5 mornings, Monday through Friday at 7:45, you hop on these conference calls. And these conference calls are going to be designed to provide instruction and motivation, and sometimes just inspiration. And most of you guys either are on your way to school at that point in time. You may be just about to start class. In some cases, you probably should be up doing homework and some other things, but you're sleeping in. So if nothing else, it at least kind of wakes you up in the morning. So 2 out of 5 mornings, you're hopping on these calls. And then on Sundays, you're hopping on our divisional calls at 9:30 for some drawing. And we're going to be doing a drawing this upcoming Sunday. And what we're going to be giving away this upcoming Sunday is either your choice of $50 cash in a gift card form, or $200 worth of free Cutco. So basically, you can get a K-bar, you can get a cleaver, you can get whatever you want. So either $50 cash or $200 worth of free Cutco this upcoming Sunday. And all you need to do to get in the drawing, by the way, is have 5 demos ahead of you for the push. So it's not like the summer where we had to have 15 demos to get in the drawing. It's 5 demos ahead of you. So it's a pretty easy to get in the drawing, but that's what we're looking for 5K. And then also be a part of our WhatsApp, divisional gunner group that we're going to create for this. So if that's something you're excited about being a part of, we're going to create a WhatsApp group for that. So that's 5K. 10K. You're there for Sunday, Saturday, and Wednesday, but then you're also committing to Sunday virtual phone jams, meaning that if you can't be here in the office or at your local office, you're Zooming in or conference calling in with your manager to make calls for that 3-hour window to set up your demos for the week. Okay, so that is there, and I think I wrote the dates wrong on the Sunday. I believe it's the 20th and I think it's actually the 24th. And the one after that is, I think, the 1st or something like that. So sorry, it's Sundays. The dates are wrong there below, but you get the idea, right? You're also on all the morning calls in the morning. If you're serious about doing 10K, you need to be up in the mornings because you'll need to make daily phone calls. Now, for some of you guys, you'll have class. I think we were talking to Jack, and you've got class starting at 8:20 or so. So for him, he's not going to be able to make 30 calls in the morning. But if he's on a call from 7:45 to 8, and then from 8 to 8:15, he makes 3 to 5 phone calls or 5 to 10 phone calls, he'll probably book up one, And so the goal would be that you're trying to get one booked up each morning for later in the week to create that. Then Sunday and Wednesday, we're going to have divisional calls as well. So you're on both of those. And then the WhatsApp updates group code there. If you want to do 15K, you want to do the same thing as the 10K Alliance, but then also making sure that you've got a big phone jam tomorrow to start creating demos for next week. And then for 20K, it's all everything on 15, everything on 10K. You're also getting on the phone Friday night, this Friday, to create, because you're going to want to go into the week ahead of you with 10 or 15 demos to start. So find something that you're excited about, circle that, and then what I will ask is that you do create a scheduled time to meet with your district manager to review some of these goals that you do have. But the SLC push, like I said, guys, it's a great opportunity to kind of put yourself in a position where you're surrounding yourself with other high-level thinkers. For some of you guys, you just started this fall. I'm thinking about for example, Turner and Hugo. For you guys, just started this fall, and you've hit several pay raises, but now this gets you into just going from being a rep to now surrounding yourself with key staff people and higher level thinkers. It was the same thing with you back there. So if you're in a position where you're kind of newer in the business, this still gives you an opportunity to kind of step up. And we're not asking that everybody goes out and tries to do 5K or 10K. What we're asking is that everybody contributes, right? And by contributing, what you're setting yourself up for is better income, more experience, improving your skill set, improving your communication skills, and starting to make a name for yourself and getting on my radar as a division manager. So Guys, I know your team meetings are about to just get started. Divisionally, I know we had kind of a funky week this week just because of everything going down. I do want to recognize though that we were up almost 30% so far for the year, which is a great feat considering that we're kind of a young and growing division. Progress is being made in a lot of cases. We've got one of our strongest development classes we've ever had, especially since we've promoted Ben into his new role as division manager in the Coastal Division. So we not only are having great growth, but even better growth is set up for next year. So as a reminder for those of you on TLA, the next time we'll get together is, as a division is going to be on the 23rd. Yep, September 23rd, Saturday. That's going to be normal bat time, bat channel, 12 to 6, with VIP night not happening until the next month. So you're good to go there. We will have a divisional phone jam here at the Pilot from 9 to 12 for TLA members that are first-year groups. We'll have an A-player meeting from like 10 to 12 as kind of an intro to being an A-player happening from 10 to 12 on that Saturday as well. So communication will happen this week, beginning of next week, on who is coming in for that A-player meeting. So guys, thanks for being on. For those of you in your local offices, have an amazing phone jam. For those of you who are not in your local office and you're zoomed in, make sure you get these documents that I sent out to your DMs and PSM so that you can kind of fill these out and take a picture of them and send them to your manager, or at least be able to list out the things that are your top 3 to 5 motivators, as well as why this push is going to help you out and mean something to you. So thanks for being on the call this morning, guys. Parker, I know you and Sam worked out a kind of a communication about videoing in to make calls today. So let's have you stay on. There you are, big dog. Look at that mug, man. You're growing that hair out, huh? Yeah, looking a little frat-tastic. I love it. Looking good. All right. So it's not too bad, dude. You're all right. So, all right. With everybody else, guys, thanks for being on. Let's have a fantastic week this week. The storm is passed officially, thank God. And now we can kind of resume business and school as usual. So thanks for being on. No excuses. Play champion. Soup. I'm gonna throw my tie-dye on real quick, and I'll be back in action. So.
If you haven't already, make sure you get some of your stuff up on the board.
Oh, tonight, guys, we're going to mix it up. It's going to be a little different but fun. For the phone jam, anybody that books up 5 or more demos, I have got your golf. After we get done tonight, we're going to go to the driving range and hit buckets of balls. And if you don't want that, you don't come anyway. I don't even know why you're shaking your head. Oh, you're going to come now?
No, like I could talk about it.
Okay, well, then we'll go eat. All right, so your food will be provided while we hang. So I will grab your Chick-fil-A. If that's happening. Yes, we'll do Chick-fil-A for team night out for dinner and a bucket of balls. So so that's what's going to happen. We're going to hit the club and do some little Chick-fil-A. So you book 5 or more. I've got your Chick-fil-A. So we want everybody getting at least 5 demos tonight so that food is on me. We're trying to spike this sales report this week. So
Hey, go ahead and unmute real quick, Parker. There you go. Hey, man. So I know you got stuff going on. So what I'm thinking is, how much time do you think you want in order to fill your schedule for the next couple of days? I mean, not next couple of days, but this weekend. I know you said you were coming home. So
I was gonna come home. I gotta come home to work for my company on Friday afternoon, and then Saturday morning.
Okay.
I gotta come back up here for the football game because I, been paid for that. So I'm not trying to miss that. I could probably do a demo or 2 Friday evening.
Okay. So it shouldn't take you that long to get 1 or 2 Friday evening then?
Yeah, no, I could definitely hook up. Definitely hook up a couple for Friday evening.
So what do we say we hook up in about an hour and 10 minutes? So 7:30.
All right.
7:30. They should give you. Or you can just call me. You don't have to get back on here because we're gonna turn this off.
Do what?
We're gonna turn this off. So just go ahead and hop on. You shoot me a text or shoot me a call. I sent you a picture of the 2 documents he was referencing.
Okay.
So
On text?
yeah. So you can just text me or just give me a call about 7:30 and we can go from there.
Okay.
Sound good?
All right, man. Appreciate it.
All right. See ya.
This is also the new updated price list.
Are they
I think
rentals
through-
now?
I don't know, someone gave it to me. The updated price, you should use old pricing until the 19th. But only use that as like a last resort kind of thing.
Okay, because
Like I wouldn't even mention it, don't even mention it.
I didn't, but since I have the old price list, like
We have,
I would sell at new prices.
what?
If I were using the next several days, I'd sell at new prices.
yeah, I've been.
And then I'd be like, Miss Jones, I'll give you an extra 10% off.
Unless they just
Old
wanna buy the
prices.
wine opener, in that case, you do the old prices, cause it's more CPO old prices than it is.
But
now.
can we, see, that's the thing is I've been entering their order.
That's like
and
the
then
only
just clicking
thing though,
when
I
they
think
gave
that's
it to you,
cheaper.
And if they haven't asked about prices, like.
Wine
so
opener
it's-
got cheaper.
Which
Probably
I think
'cause
is a
nobody
good
was
thing, because
buying
it
it.
used to be really expensive, it's like
That's what
$70.
Can we get a new price sheet?
I don't know.
I gotta find them. I don't know where I found those.
Is the new one online though? I mean, for me, I've just been entering it and clicking in between the new price and the old price.
I think
and
it's
seeing
in
which
the-
CPO is higher.
You can just click the like on Vector Connect homepage. It says price list. You just click that
Yeah.
button. The new one's there.
So, okay, that is it.
Hey,
Randy
Sam,
said,
can I get a week planner?
Trying to get music
what
going.
is the, who's on hold with Vector Live? I was about to say, I can hear it.
Should we get the tablet?